Lădoiu. Doamnelor și domnilor, e momentul pe care vi l-am promis. Cel al dezvăluirilor făcute de șeful spionajului american. William Burns este un intelectual rasat, un diplomat de carieră, un om care a fost ambasadorul Statelor Unite la Moscova și care cunoaște Rusia de foarte mulți ani de zile. Ei bine, foarte recent, acum 4 sau 5 zile, a mărturisit experiența pe care a trăit-o atunci când l-a întâlnit pe Vladimir Putin. În noiembrie anul trecut, președintele Statelor Unite, Joe Biden, l-a trimis pe William Burns să îl avertizeze pe Vladimir Putin să nu înceapă războiul. Mărturia șefului CIA este cea a unui om foarte preocupat, a unui om care cunoaște în detaliu tot ce se întâmplă în Rusia și care îl cunoaște pe Vladimir Putin și spune: părul meu alb este din cauza Rusiei lui Putin. Așadar, o mărturie extraordinară pentru a înțelege exact ce se întâmplă acum și ce se va întâmpla în viitorul apropiat. Șeful CIA despre Putin, Rusia și apoi o evaluare absolut senzațională, legătura cu China.
Much of my gray hair comes from dealing with Vladimir Putin's Russia. I was the U.S. ambassador in Moscow 15 years ago and have watched over the years as Putin has stewed in a combustible combination of grievance and ambition and insecurity. An apostle of payback, he is firmly convinced that the West, especially the United States, took advantage of Russia's moment of historical weakness in the 1990s. His risk appetite has grown as his grip on Russia has tightened. His circle of advisors has narrowed, and in that small circle, it has never been career-enhancing to question his judgment or his stubborn, almost mystical belief that his destiny is to restore Russia's sphere of influence. Every day, Putin demonstrates that declining powers can be at least as disruptive as rising ones. By early last fall, we and our partners in the U.S. intelligence community had begun to gather disturbing and detailed intelligence about Putin's plans for a major new invasion of Ukraine. Neither Putin nor many of those around him could imagine Russia as a major power without a deferential Ukraine, a Ukraine whose external choices were controlled by the Kremlin. I had learned over the years never to underestimate Putin's relentless determination, especially on Ukraine. In early November, President Biden asked me to travel to Russia to convey directly to Putin and several of his closest advisors the depth of our concern about his planning for war and the consequences for Russia of attempting to execute that plan. I was troubled by what I heard. While it did not yet seem that he had made an irreversible decision to invade Ukraine, Putin was defiantly leaning in that direction, apparently convinced that his window was closing for shaping Ukraine's orientation. He also seemed convinced that this winter offered a favorable landscape, with President Zelensky and the Ukrainians unlikely, in his view, to mount effective resistance, the Russian military capable of a quick, decisive victory at minimal cost, our European allies distracted by their own politics and risk-averse, and the Russian economy sanctions-proofed by a war chest of foreign currency reserves. When he launched his war 7 weeks ago, Putin was proven wrong on each of those counts. Ukraine, he had argued for years, was not a real country, but real countries fight back. And that's what Ukrainians have done with such remarkable bravery, led with such courage and resolve by President Zelensky. Throughout the conflict, U.S. intelligence has played a critical role. Armed with accurate and precise insights and information, the U.S. government shared them energetically with our allies from the start. We have been equally committed to rapid and effective intelligence sharing with our Ukrainian partners throughout the fighting and for months beforehand. As allied leaders and counterparts have emphasized directly in my travels in Europe, the credibility of U.S. intelligence helped cement the solidarity of the alliance. At President Biden's direction, the U.S. government has also taken unprecedented steps to declassify intelligence and use it publicly to preempt the false narratives and false flag operations which Putin has used so often in the past. By being open with some of our secrets, we made it harder for Putin to obscure the truth of his unprovoked and vicious aggression. Those decisions can never be taken lightly, given the importance of protecting sources and methods. But in this case, they have made a crucial contribution to a successful whole-of-government strategy. They reflect the need for new thinking and new tactics in this new and demanding era for intelligence. The last chapter in Putin's war has yet to be written as he grinds away at Ukraine. I have no doubt about the cruel pain and damage that Putin can continue to inflict on Ukraine, or the raw brutality with which Russian force is being applied. The crimes in Bucha are horrific. The scenes of devastation in Mariupol and Kharkiv are sadly reminiscent of the images I saw in Grozny in Chechnya as a young diplomat in the winter of 1994-95. 40 square blocks in the center of the city, flattened by Russian shelling and bombing, leaving thousands of civilian deaths. But Ukrainian will is unbroken, and Putin's Russia has inflicted massive material and reputational damage on itself. American intelligence has been vital throughout and offers valuable lessons for the future of our profession: how to develop good intelligence, use it as the basis for good policy, share it systematically as the basis for good alliances and partnerships, and deploy it openly and creatively to discredit the false narratives on which adversaries so often thrive. A silent partner in Putin's aggression, Xi Jinping's China is our greatest challenge, in many ways the most profound test that CIA has ever faced. The People's Republic of China is a formidable competitor, lacking in neither ambition nor capability. It seeks to overtake us in literally every domain, from economic strength to military power and from space to cyberspace. Its rise has been remarkable. In 2001, before many of you in this room were born, that makes me feel really old, China was the top trading partner with 12 countries. Now it's the top partner with 120 countries. At the beginning of this century, China's GDP was $1 trillion. Now it's about $15 trillion. At the beginning of this century, around the time many of you were born, China was nowhere near what you would call a global leader in technology. Now it's a leader in AI, 5G, drones, hypersonics, and web applications, probably quite a few of which are on your phones right now. Of course, China's rise is not inherently a bad thing. Hundreds of millions of Chinese citizens have climbed out of poverty into the middle class, and Americans have also benefited economically from China's growth. But let's look at some other numbers. In the last few years, Beijing has hacked at least 150 US companies to steal secrets. It is trying to increase its nuclear arsenal to 1,000 warheads. It has detained 1 million of its own citizens simply because they are Muslim, and arrested thousands more in Hong Kong for peacefully supporting democracy. And it has lured countless countries into crushing debt, data exposure, and democratic backsliding. The People's Republic of China is intent upon building the capabilities to bully its neighbors, replace the United States as the preeminent power in the Indo-Pacific, and chip away with other authoritarians at the rules-based international order that we and our allies have worked so hard to sustain. As an intelligence service, we have never had to deal with an adversary with more reach in more domains. At the same time, it's important to be clear that our concern is about the threat posed by the People's Republic of China, the PRC, not about the people of China, let alone fellow Americans of Chinese or Asian descent. It is a profound mistake to conflate the two. At CIA, we will stay sharply focused on the PRC challenge.
Acesta a fost William Burns, șeful CIA, cu mărturia despre Rusia, Putin și puterea în creșterea Chinei. O Chină care, din punct de vedere ideologic, sprijină ceea ce face Rusia în Ucraina, dar face și în același timp un joc foarte